Hello, long time no see. It's been pretty busy over here just with life in general and hunting stuff. But today I have these two white-tailed deers that were taken by family members of mine this 2025 Wisconsin gun season. And so today I'm just gonna go over how I cape them out. Now, I've only ever caped out one whitetail, so this isn't a tutorial in any means, but if you're like me and you like learning new things, practicing, this video is gonna be great for you, or if you're just bored and you want something to watch. But if you are a professional or know how to do this better, or have any tips for me, please let me know in the comments, because I'm always looking to improve my craft and my skill with this kind of stuff. But yeah, let's get started. All right, so some of the things you're gonna need is a knife, obviously. The one I like to use are Outdoor Edge knives. Not sponsored, but they really should. And then maybe a smaller blade for when you get around the base of the antlers, the eyes and the nose and the stuff like that. So we have these smaller kind of scalpel blades. All right, so as you can see, we do have the whole cape, and wow, do they smell pretty ready yet. So yeah, pretty great. Kind of stinks. All right, so the first part that I've seen a lot of people start with, and I will say it is probably the easier part to start with, just to get you kind of used to working your blade and stuff like that, is the nose and mouth area. There, I have moved angle, so hopefully you can see this better, but you're pretty much going to open up the lip here and cut along right there. Feel the skull. So you're pretty much just gonna wanna follow that line. And again, if you need to move them around, and you're gonna wanna do that with the bottom jaw as well. So you're pretty much just peeling the skin back off of the bone. And it is better to do this when it's kind of warm, because if it is like freezing, the skin's gonna be kind of hard to maneuver around. And now when you get up to the nose, if you can see that, you still want to make sure you're cutting like inwards, not up. So you'll start to see the nose, the bone, it'll be the bottom jaw, and then this is all cartilage, and then the bone will start back here. So this part we'll have to cut off to keep the cartilage in the nose. Again, I think the actual taxidermist would take the cartilage out. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not a taxidermist, but pretty much you're gonna cut through that cartilage, so right through the nose. All right, now once you get to about this point where your nose and lips are completely off, like right at the cheeks here, that's where you want to go ahead and stop. And then we're going to go and start at the base and then finish our way back up towards the front of the head. Now, we're going to start at the back of the head. And I've seen a lot of different ways of doing this. You have the T cut, so going base to base and then down like 6 inches, or the Y, so kind of base to base but then down towards the ears, and then another like 5 inches or whatever. My first one I did the Y, and it kind of was a little bit more complicated, so I think I'm gonna try the T cut today and see how that works. I feel like it might be easier just because it's one cut instead of 2 separate cuts meeting together. Again, these hides, we're not super worried about having to reuse them or not. And again, these deer won't be shoulder mounted, they're just gonna be Euroed. So they're not super concerned about the hides. And again, if you want to learn how to do this, I would suggest, if you don't want to shoot a little deer, but if you know other family members that do and they just want a Euro mount, this is a great way to practice how to do this, because if you mess up the cape at all, it's not the end of the world. You're just learning something new. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just learn as you go. All right, so we have a higher angle here. Now the hairs typically kind of split apart pretty nice. So I like to kind of take my knife, draw a line between the two bases, and kind of like split the hairs down the middle. This is if you were to get it actually shoulder mounted, how they would do it, just so you're not seeing all the stitching when they go to stitch it back up. And again, if I'm doing this wrong and if you're a professional, let me know or give me pointers on what I'm doing. You'll kind of see the skin kind of form a line between the two bases, and that's where you're gonna cut. So I'm actually gonna take my fingers to hold those and draw that line to both bases. All right, now once you've got kind of a nice line going between the two burrs, we're gonna do one line straight back to right behind the ears. And so it'll be about 5-6 inches. And again, you're gonna wanna split the hair kind of in half. So if you were to take this cape to a taxidermy, or again, if you are a taxidermist, you would split this down the middle. So then when you go to restitch it back up, the hairs would hide that stitch real nice. And again, it's not gonna be perfect. As close as you can get. We'll start up here. And you do wanna cut down. Obviously, don't cut yourself. So yeah, you're just kind of going down the center. And now that you have some more skin to work with, this is where you can kind of start pulling the skin back, and you'll be able to see these little kind of fibers, I guess, kind of holding the hair together. And you just want to slowly start cutting that away from the meat portion. So like, as you can see, this is a really nice example. You can see the white thick skin and then the kind of pinky meat area. You're just splitting those two apart. So like that little kind of strip there, that's where you would want to cut, and it'll just slowly kind of fold away. And so you can work your way back up to the bases where you made that first cut. And so with your first cut here, again, it's kind of hard to see with all the hair. So there, and then there's so you can see the top of the T there, and then the bottom of the T, and you're pretty much just gonna slowly pull these sides apart, and then this will come down and you'll get around the bases. Around the bases is the hardest part. That's the part where I have not mastered it yet. So if you have any tips, let me know. So there might still be hairs on these bases, just a fair warning. But yeah, so you're pretty much gonna cut all these little strands around, and then you're gonna follow back up with your first cut there. Slowly pulling the skin away. And now what I've heard with the bases, so obviously the hair goes kind of up and under. If you've ever seen a Euro mount, the antlers and the bases are kind of like not flush, not even, or the same size, I guess. So the hair goes up under the bases. So with that being said, your cuts are you're gonna wanna cut like upwards, like to get up under the bases, to make sure you get all those hairs off. And again, this will probably be the most tedious part of it all. If you are looking at saving the cape, or again, if you're a taxidermist, this would probably be the hardest part. So you're just gonna wanna, again, slowly peel the skin away from itself, and you're just gonna wanna cut at an upward angle up into the bases. And again, as you're doing that, also start pulling away. at the rest of it. It'll make it a lot easier. If you need to make this cut longer too, again, it shouldn't be that hard to stitch it up because, again, as you can tell, this hair is pretty long. So as long as you don't just like cut through the hair, you should be fine if you are wanting to stitch this back up at the end and end up using it for a shoulder mount. So if you wanted to cut down farther, you can, if you need more room to kind of work in here. All right, now I am gonna cut down more again because we're probably not gonna reuse this cape. This is a 2.5-year-old deer, so I mean, it's not gonna have the biggest neck ever. Now, when you get to the ears, you're pretty much just chopping the ears off, basically, so you don't really have to worry about anything there. Again, if you were to shoulder mount it, I'm not exactly sure what parts of the ear need to stay in there for the mount itself, so don't ask me any questions about that. Again, you need to move it around, do that. It'll make it easier to cut. Also, I've seen other ways of people doing around the bases. They use like a screwdriver and a hammer to kind of like peel it away. I'm not quite sure how to really do that. So for now, I'm just cutting and hoping I don't cut a lot of hairs. But obviously I can already tell there's some hair still under the bases. All right, now because I can't really get any further with this on this side, so we're gonna pull the ears and get the ears off. So for this, as you can see, as you're slowly starting to cut away, you can already kind of see where the ear is, and you're pretty much just gonna cut straight through that. Again, if you're a taxidermist, I'm probably making you scream right now. And again, you're basically just slowly, and so you can tell right there, there's like kind of the inner ear part is right there. I don't know if you can see that circle kind of right there. You're just cutting that free basically. All right, and I might need to come down lower because the neck got chopped off like right here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to roll it into itself. Again, you're still just gonna be slowly cutting away all over. So yeah, this cut right here, it'll be a very long T, depending on, again, where you cut the actual head off of the rest of the body. The closer you cut it off at the, like right by the ears, the easier it'll be, and the shorter this cut will be, because the neck part that's still in there will end up coming through this cut. So then you can pull it the rest of the way through. And then again, I'll cut this ear off. All right, now because I can't really get closer to this ear, I need to start taking this part down more. So what I'm doing around these bases, I'm starting with my blade and I'm kind of coming up underneath and cutting the skin, but obviously that's not gonna fully take the hide off. So then I'm coming above where the hide is, and I'm kind of putting it at an angle downwards and going down into the base. And there it starts slowly cutting itself away from the base. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. It's slowly working its way around this way. So we'll just go ahead and finish cutting this ear, cutting all this kind of muscle away. It's not all like, oh, I'm gonna start here and then you have to do like certain steps. You're gonna have to move it around to make it easier to work on other parts. So like these, it's kind of hard to work on because of how restricting this is. So that's where you want to go ahead and get the neck pulled through now. and kind of like pulling upwards. As you can see, there's the end of the neck right there. And again, you can probably cut up higher as well, which I might do for the sake of this. But again, if you want to make it nice, just kind of find the center and just kind of come upwards. Again, this hair is pretty thick, so with a nice stitch job, you won't be able to see the stitching. There, that gives a little bit more. And again, there will be some missing hairs. Don't worry about it. Now again, when you get far enough where you can roll this kind of neck skin over, that is really gonna help just kind of open everything up to make it easier to see things. Again, this isn't something you can just do in like 5 minutes, at least not for me anyways. Cutting it off of the neck. Turn around here. But yeah, like right there where the white and the meat, that is where you want to cut. So you're just slowly, and again, if you get your fingers up underneath this hide, it'll kind of help you like pull it away from the meat to kind of see where you should be cutting. Now this part you do want to be careful with. As you can see, I did end up cutting a little hole right there, but you don't want to be careful here because this is where the neck will then go to the face, so it won't continue coming this way where you've been pulling. It'll go inwards. But again, with having the neck kind of more down, this helps us kind of access the antlers a little bit better. And now is where you can also start peeling the back off of the head from this part, because it'll help with getting the rest of this off of the bases. So again, kind of cut up into the bases. I don't know how else to do it. And just slowly cutting it back. There we go. And there's one base done. I mean, there's a little bit of hair in the back yet, but honestly, that's not the worst. Okay, let me know. But yeah, so there's one done. Now to finish the next one. Again, cutting through that ear bone cartilage right there. And there we go. And there's the second one. We're gonna take some more of this neck off here. All right, now as you can see, we've made it past the neck and we're just slowly, still just doing what we've been doing, just bringing the hide all the way down to the mouth and nose. Now we're not gonna bring it all the way down because we still have yet to do the eyes, but get it as far down as you can just to kind of get it out of the way. Now, with the eye, as you can see, we're like right there, we're pretty close. Now, Obviously, we don't want to cut the eyelid or anything. We want to keep that where you were to do a shoulder mount with it. So again, you're just going to keep slowly cutting where things kind of split. And again, if it helps, I would put your finger right in the corner of that eye, because that'll give you kind of marker of where that eyeball starts. And again, you just want to go very slowly, just slowly cutting everything else around, make sure it's getting out of the way. And again, so we're like right there. Now, if it helps, if you can kind of see that little white that's in the top corner, you're going to be cutting through that part. So again, if you're pulling the hide away from the face, you're not going to cut the eye itself, or the eyelids, I guess. You're not going to cut the eyelids if you're pulling the hide away from the face, because that is like part of this outer hide, whereas that white part is like this part right here. So put your finger there, and this white right here, because I know my finger's here, I'm going to cut here. And again, the closer you go to the actual bone itself will help you stay away from that. So you're just going to want to slowly cut right here. And again, as you start cutting, you'll be able to see the black, that's the actual eyeball. But again, start pulling through, and there we go. So as you can see here, no marks in the actual eye. You just cut through that white back part, which is not a problem. And again, now you can kind of look through this hole and you can actually see the eyelid. So you can actually have kind of a guide of where to not cut. Again, the closer you stay to the skull, the better. And as you can see, we have the eyelid, no cuts in it at all. Now, the next part we have is this little like indent in the eye. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, like your tear duct. We're gonna have to be careful because that goes into the skull, like up in it. Again, if you've seen a Euro mount, there's like that little dot right by the eye. You want to be careful with that. You don't want to put any holes in that either. And again, that'll be right after the eye as well. Now for the tear duct, you're gonna have your knife directly on the bone at all time. As you're slowly cutting everything else away, you're cutting on that bone and pulling back. And you can see this white line kind of like right there. That's kind of where it's at. And again, it does indent right there. You'll kind of feel it and see it. And again, just cut along the skull and you'll be fine. So as you can see, that's where the tear duct was or started, right in that little indent. And we're just slowly cutting away. Now, as you can see, this little bubble right there, that's it. No holes, no nothing. As long as you stay and touch the skull, you will be fine. And again, stay on the skull, pull the skin downwards, and bam, you have now done an eye. All right, I'll flip it over and we'll do it again. Find the back of the eye. Remember, find the back of the eye, put your finger there, and cut on the skull and pulling the hide away from the skull. Again, grab it just to make sure. And again, you're gonna cut through that eye. You can come up if you want, be careful there. And again, slowly just start. The tighter tension you have pulling the hide away from the bone will make it so much easier to work with also. Because the tighter you pull it, the easier you'll see these little lines to kind of guide you on where to cut. So like right there, I'm gonna cut right there. These lines going up, this eye, we can cut going closer. But again, have your finger in on the other side so you can see which way that eyelid is. And there you go, done another eye. Now go back down to this tear duct. And again, it'll be like right after the eye. So be careful with that. And again, if you just stay on the skull and just cut in to that little circle or that little indent. Like right there, just cut in the indent and you got your tear duct without any cuts or anything. All right, now that we're looking like this, you're basically done with all the hard parts. So now you're pretty much just gonna continue pulling everything downwards, keeping your knife in contact with the bone, and you're just gonna keep pulling down until you get to the nose and the mouth where you first started. And now here we can start seeing we're getting down towards the mouth. Now again, we already worked up a certain like distance to the mouth. So if you want to stick your finger up in the mouth to see where it stopped, and then flip this part over, and now my finger is right here. So you'll know, again, as you're pulling the hide back, watch your finger, but it'll kind of guide you on where to cut. And then when you make a hole, you can slowly just, again, start pulling it back along with the rest of the hide. And then take your finger, shove it up the mouth where you had it. Your first cut was, you'll see your finger, and you'll make a line right there while pulling that skin back. And you should open up a little hole, stick your finger in that one, and then cut away from the rest of it as well. Almost done. And then when you get to the nose, all right, and as you can see, we actually just took the nose right off because we cut this and we just kind of followed pulling it down. And again, you'll cut all this off as well. And any meat you're cutting, if you know what you're looking at, you can just cut it off because you won't need it. All right, well, here we have our separate Euro head. Honestly, I don't think it turned out that bad. This is actually better than my first one that had a bunch of hair all over the bases. Now this one still has some hair around the bases, but honestly, I don't think it's too bad. And then if you take the hide and we flip it over, you can see we have no tears in the eye. That is a little blood spot, don't mind about that. Same with this eye. No other cuts in the face, nose fully intact. Also, I've heard on the inner lips as well, as long as you keep like all this inner lip around, that's great for the taxidermist because they'll obviously take it and shove it into the mouth of the form and stuff like that. But yeah, here is our finished product. So again, if you get comfortable with doing this but you don't have like a deer you want to mount this on, again, this one would just be a Euro mount. This cape though, obviously another deer, and we wanted to end up using the cape, we can always keep this cape and throw it on the different head mount or different set of antlers. But again, this was like a 2.5-year-old deer, so the circumference of the neck isn't going to be like a giant like 5.5-year-old buck, but it's still a nice hide. I mean, you can't beat a nice fall rutted buck. So yeah. All right, well, there was me caping out my second ever deer. I hope you guys learned something as well as I definitely did. Obviously, each time I do this, I'm gonna just get better and better. And that's as best as you can do. I mean, again, I love learning new skills, teaching myself these things, just because one, it's fun, and two, then you kind of know how to do this on your own. So if another person needs help with something, you can jump in and you know what you're doing. So yeah, honestly, this wasn't hard at all. And again, if you have the time and the patience and you want to learn something like this, I would highly recommend doing it. I mean, it builds self-confidence in yourself, and again, you can do it. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. It's a piece of cake. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to hit the like button if it was helpful at all, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. So yeah, till the next one, bye.